Today we're going to be talking about how sometimes your financing request isn't always approved, and it's not always the banker's fault. The fact is, and this is sort of a direct in your face, welcome to Finance Friday, where we talk about facts and fundamentals of finance on Friday. It's winter.
Hey, I'm just
It's a gardening book.
Not that I'm going to do any gardening, but it's very pretty.
It is very pretty.
Hi, I'm Trevor.
I'm Linda Ray.
Today's Finance Friday.
Today's Finance Friday, and if this is the first time that you're visiting us on Finance Friday, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on that bell, ding, 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 so that you can see every time that we post a new video.
Hey, what's going on?
What's going on with you?
You know, it wasn't my fault that I was reading.
You like to read. You're a well-read man.
You left the book out, so really, you're partly responsible. You see what I did there? It's not always the banker's fault.
Interesting segue.
Your banker wants to be your go-to resource. She's worked really hard to get your trust and get you to open your deposit accounts with the bank. So when you come to her with a request for credit financing, she wants to make it happen. But if the financing can't happen, it's not always her fault, especially if you have low credit scores.
Credit is a common discussion that's always happening, especially with financing.
It's about risk. The lender is assessing risk, and different lenders have different tolerances for risk. And in fact, not only do the different lenders have different tolerances for risk, but at any given time, a lender can change its appetite for risk depending on, if they're kind of flush with depository cash and they want to get it out there into the world, make some return on investment by lending it, they may change their lending criteria for a temporary period. But in general, if you've got low credit scores and your financing is not approved, it's not your banker's fault.
Be aware of your credit score.
Yes.
And we're not talking about those consumer access credit reports that people can go online and get. I know there's some free services for those kinds of credit scores.
And they give you a score, yeah.
And then there's some paid services.
Yeah.
So that, but we're not talking about those.
No, they're very different from the classic FICO score. We've seen the differences in these consumer access credit reports as much as 100 points.
100
in
points?
either direction. Yeah, it's not the same as what we pull in financial services. We pull something called the classic FICO. The classic FICO score is not available to consumers. And we hear from people all the time, they have all kinds of different scores. A credit card gets me a credit score, and I get it with my bank account statement.
And the lenders don't use those. It's like, oh, well, I have my credit scored. No.
They're going to run a classic FICO. So the question then is, how can you be aware of your credit score? You can pull a free credit report once a year by federal regulation from the 3 credit bureaus, and you should do so. Not so much to look at the score, but be aware of issues that are on your credit report that could affect your score.
There are people who think they have a low credit score, but actually that doesn't preclude them from getting financing.
Well, there's other people who think they have a low credit score when in fact it's not terrible. It may not be 700 or 800, but a high 600 credit score is not a low credit score. The threshold is usually somewhere around 620. And in my experience, if your credit score is below 620, the person knows it.
And something's going on.
There's some dramatic failure in the past. Often it is, maybe some old bad credit with current underutilization of good credit.
If it is below 620, it shouldn't stop you from having a conversation, especially if you're looking to secure some financing to build your business.
Yeah.
That's why people hire us, is to go through their credit, see where the gaps are or where the failures are, and how those objections can be overcome.
To obtain the credit financing. Yeah. If you're fairly certain that your credit scores are below 620, then when you sit down with your banker to apply for business credit financing, you should bring that up in the conversation.
And that's actually the second thing we were going to address today, which is to fully disclose all of the circumstances that are showing up negatively on your credit report and have a conversation about it.
Being upfront about it includes, current circumstances that could negatively impact your credit, such as, Mr. Banker, you should be aware I'm currently delinquent on my mortgage on my house by 3 months. or I'm getting phone calls from a collection agency on a medical collection account from 5 years ago. That's being specific.
The fact is, and this is sort of a direct in your face, if your score is in the low 600s, something is wrong and you know it. So there's nothing wrong with getting those consumer access credit reports.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we don't completely discourage you from using it. Just understand that the score you obtain there may be very different from your classic FICO score.
But they will have the big hits on there that are causing some rumble in the banker's mind about the risk they're taking on when it comes to financing.
And that helps you by reading that report, whether you get the free annual credit report that you're entitled to by law, or you get one of these consumer access types credit reports with the not necessarily accurate score. Either way, you can read the report. Reading the report is a key element to help you discuss what are the elements of your credit report that may be impacting your score with your banker. Because if it's something like a couple of $100, $300, $400 old collection accounts that actually weren't your fault because your health insurance didn't pay a bill, but it did get paid, and they're 5 years in the past, your banker might say, I don't think that's going to impact your ability to get approved for this financing.
Right.
This is why we encourage you to disclose it up front.
Right. It's not like it's a algorithm per se. There are humans that are reviewing these things.
You hope.
At Aurora Consulting, we run credit reports right from the beginning for every client. We work for the client. We don't work for the bank, and there are things that we know to review that could be positive for the client.
We've actually gotten loans placed with scores in the 500s. So there are options out there, albeit limited options, and the terms are not always going to be the most amazing terms, but it is possible in certain circumstances. Again, what we do as a broker working on your behalf is to look at the entire picture and to kind of determine, well, if we have a challenge in this area, what's our strengths over here? Mm-hmm. Balance off your strengths and weaknesses. It doesn't always work, but I'm a Libra.
We find that when clients are upfront with us, it's just easier to manage the process so that we can effectively present the financing request to the banker with a higher level of success. Speaking of upfront, we have a page dedicated on our website for how you can manage your credit score. You can also download our white paper on the myths of credit repair. Visit our website at www.auroraconsulting.biz.
I'm Trevor.
I'm Linda Ray.
We are
Aurora Consulting, financing solutions for your business success story.